Today, we're going to focus on statistical study designs. Statistical study designs. And very important topic in the MCCQE1. And I know a lot of candidates struggle with it because when it comes to statistics, people go like, oh, Dr. Bonnie, I don't know what to do. So that's why we are going to focus on statistical study designs today. All right. That's why we are focusing on statistical study designs today. Just give me a few seconds. Let me fix something on my phone just to make sure that everyone can hear me clearly. Awesome. Okay, good. So there we go. All right. So we're going to start with a question and then we'll climb up from there. And remember, I always tell you that the Medical Council has these 3 questions which you need to go through. Now, it is these 3 questions I've picked up and I'm developing these learning models around so that you can understand exactly how your examiner thinks. And the Medical Council has been so gracious to give us that opportunity, you know, for us to understand how they craft their questions so that when you are studying, you will know exactly how to study. So let's get into the first question. And that is what is introducing today's class. And the question says this: you are a family physician in an industrial city with many different types of manufacturing and processing facilities. So just imagine, as a doctor, you practice in a city which has so much manufacturing going on, okay? Now, you notice that many of your patients who work in these facilities have dermatitis. You collect data from the regional workplace safety and insurance board on cases of dermatitis and the type of industry associated with each of the cases. Which one of the following types of study is being performed by collecting this data? Let me read the question again. And those on TikTok, if you want to see the slides, just go to YouTube and type MedCognito. You'll see it there, okay? YouTube Live. We are live on YouTube. So it says you are a family physician in an industrial city with many different types of manufacturing and processing facilities. You notice that many of your patients who work in these facilities have dermatitis. You collect data from the regional workplace safety and insurance board on cases of dermatitis and the type of industry associated with each case. Which one of the following types of study is being performed by collecting this data? A, case-controlled observational study. B, cohort observational study. C, descriptive observational study. D, randomized control study. And E, analytical observational study. What's the correct answer? Is it A? Are you going to go for A? Are you going to go for B? Are you going to go for C, for D, or for E? What answer are you going to go for? Is it a case control study, cohort observational study, descriptive observational study, randomized control study, or analytical observational study? What answer will you go for? What answer will you go for? What answer will you go for? So a lot of the guys on YouTube and Facebook are saying they are going for C. What answer will you go for? Those on TikTok, what answer will you go for? Are you going to go for A, for B, for C, for D, or for E? So I see that the TikTok guys are also saying they are going to go for C. Okay, what is the correct answer, by the way? The correct answer is C. It's a descriptive observational study. Descriptive observational study. And we're going to dive in to see why the Medical Council chose that as the answer. And in your board exam, why you should choose descriptive observational study as your answer. And this is the reason. This approach aligns with descriptive observational study, which is designed to gather information about the prevalence and distribution of a condition within a specific population. Now, the primary aim is to describe the patterns of disease, such as who is affected, where, when, without attempting to establish a cause and effect relationship. Now, so that is why it's a descriptive observational study. Why is it not a case control study? You realize that a case control study would involve comparing individuals with dermatitis, that is the case, with those without dermatitis. So that is In a case control study, you are going to deal with people who have dermatitis versus people who don't have dermatitis to identify potential risk factors. Then you ask yourself, okay, what probably is the reason why these people have this particular disease and this other group who don't have that particular disease? Now, why is cohort study wrong? A cohort observational study would follow a group over time, okay, to see who develops dermatitis. So a cohort study is basically, it's something you are looking into the future. But this particular question says that this doctor observed that there is a problem in the community. So he went to the factory where they work and then went to do his he collects his data. And then what about a randomized control study? A randomized control study involves the random assignment of interventions to study their effects, which is not applicable here, as no intervention is being tested. Okay? And then an analytical observational study seeks to identify associations or causal links between exposures and outcomes. Now, I know it's a lot of information, especially those who don't see the slides. So I say again, if you want to see the slides, just jump to YouTube, check on MedCognito, and the slides are there on live, right? When you go under live, you will see it there. And again, this is the reference. They got this from this reference, Agarwal and Ragnathan, P Study Designs Part 2. Now, I'm showing you the website itself. That's from PubMed, right? That is where this particular question was sourced from. And I'll say it again and again and again and again and again and again. Please know the relevant materials you need if you want to prepare for the Canadian board exams. Know the relevant materials you need if you want to prepare for the Canadian board exams. If you want to prepare for emergency medicine exams in the MCCQE1, use Tintinali. If you want to prepare for general internal medicine and general medicine, go for Up-to-Date or Harrison's textbook of internal medicine. You may ask, what about Toronto Notes? Wonderful, wonderful book. It summarizes a lot of the concepts, right? It summarizes a lot of the concepts, but you will realize that there is no single topic we've done from the free MCC questions where the MCC has solicited their questions directly from Toronto Notes. Toronto Notes is an awesome book that you can use for your reference, okay? And now they have the 2025 edition. So if you want, you can just go to any bookshop and buy a copy. Okay, so now let's dive in and let's understand how this question was set. You realize that in the MCC, it's very obvious. The Medical Council combines a couple of things. So this particular question we just did was a combination of occupational and industrial medicine plus dermatology plus statistical studies. And that is what gave us where we are right now. So you will see that if it even comes to statistics and epidemiology and those things, they will not just give you some statistical thing just like that. They will always couch it in a medical language, all right? So that's something I want you to appreciate very, very, very well. Now, when I looked at the question, what did I glean from the question? What did I get from the way the question was set? Some things you need to know if you're preparing for the QE1 exam. There are some critical things you need to master. Number one, you have to understand study design types. You can't go into a Canadian board exam without knowing the types of study designs. So you have to understand what a descriptive study design is. You have to understand what a cohort study is. You have to understand what a case control study is. You have to understand what a cross-sectional study is. You have to understand what a randomized controlled trial is. You have to understand what an ecological study is, right? You have to understand all these wonderful nuances. Number two, you have to understand the measures of epidemiological data. What do we mean by incidence of disease? What do we mean by prevalence of disease? What do we mean by relative risk? What do we mean by odds ratio? What do we mean by absolute risk reduction? What do we mean by number needed to treat? Right? You have to, because you can, all these things, you can be quizzed on them and you must know them very, very well. And that is why I'm bringing these concepts. When you read a question like that, with a medical counselor is graciously giving out, you have to understand these concepts which go with it. Okay, good. And then you also have to understand some concepts of occupational medicine. For example, I am training also as an occupational medicine physician as well. I've done my part 1. Okay, so I'm now an AC BOM, an associate of Canadian Board of Occupational Physicians. If you are interested in that, you can contact me after this on my phone number, and then we can have a conversation about it at +1 306 891 5649. How to get into occupational medicine in Canada. I can guide you about it. It's a very simple process. Okay, so my phone number is what is going on your screen right now at +1 306 891 5649. Occupational medicine there's a component of occupational medicine as well, which is important in your MCQE1. And if you go into the objectives, you realize that workplace related, stuff is there as one of the objectives you need to learn from. So you need to understand occupational industrial exposures. You have to understand work-related diseases like dermatitis, mesothelioma, COPD, noise-induced hearing loss. These are all things the medical counselor expects you to know. And then you also have to understand bias and confounding. In which of the studies do you get recall bias? In which of the studies can you get selection bias? In which of the studies can you develop loss to follow up? In which of the studies can you get what we call ecological fallacy? Okay, confounding factors. And know which bias belongs to which study design. And these are the things I really, really want you to pick up by the end of today's class. Then you also have to understand public health surveillance. Okay, how disease registries operate in Canada, how insurance boards, how workers' compensation boards, how public health databases work, and when and why doctors use them. Because you want to work in the system, you need to understand how that system works. And you also have to understand the relation between causation and association. What does it take to move from association to causation? But I'm not going to go through all these things today. We are going to pick the most important things and go through them. You also have to understand how to calculate sensitivity, specificity, how to calculate positive predictive value, negative predictive value, primary versus secondary versus tertiary prevention. Right? Doctors, please, are you tracking with me? I want to know. If you are tracking with me, wherever you are joining us from, whether you're joining us from TikTok or Facebook or YouTube, just type, Dr. Bruni, I'm tracking. I want to know. If you are really tracking with me, just type, I am tracking. I really, really want to make sure that you are really tracking with me. So if you are tracking with me, just let me know that, Dr. Bruni, I am tracking with you. Because doctors, I say again and again and again, everything you need in your board exam, the medical counselor has given you. The Medical Council of Canada has given everything to you in their objectives. And why am I bringing all these things up? It is because I've studied the objectives left, right, center, back, forward, north, south, east, and west, right? And you need to know this. I'm tracking. Beautiful. I'm tracking. Just type, yes, I'm tracking. Okay? So if you're joining us on Facebook, TikTok, wherever you're joining us, just type, I'm tracking. Okay. So now, let's continue. You also have to understand ethical principles in research. You have to understand informed consent, anonymity when using existing database. So this doctor went into this place to collect information. You have to understand how information must be gathered if you want to do research in Canada. Okay? And reporting obligations to public health authorities. What should you see? Who should cause you to say that this thing has to be reported to the public health department of your province, right? And then hypothesis generation and testing. So, doctors, there's a lot you need to learn. But today, I want us to focus on these 5 things. And I'm going to mention those 5 things right now. Number 1, case-controlled observational study. What is it? How do you pick it up in a board exam? Number 2, you have to understand what is a cohort observational study. Number 3, you have to understand what is descriptive observational study. Number 4, you have to understand what is a randomized control study. And number 5, you need to understand what an analytical observational study is. If you can pick these 5 things up, doctors, you are good to go. You are good to go. If you know if you are given a case and you know that this is a case control study, this is a cohort study, this is a descriptive study, this is a randomized control trial, this is an analytical observational study, you are good to go. So let's jump in right away and get in. Those on TikTok, if you want to see the notes I'm sharing, you can go to YouTube and type MedCognito, MEDCOGNITO. You will find it there. Okay, so now let's start with case control study. In a board exam, when you see case control study, think about yourself as a detective. Case control study goes with being a detective. What do I mean? I'm just bringing these things to make your learning of the concepts very simple. Case control study. See yourself as a detective. Why do I say that? Now, you realize that in a case control study, just think about this. Someone has already been murdered, right? So just use that word murdered in quotes, that the disease has already happened. And as a detective, what is your job? Your job is to go backward, look at all the CCTV cameras, look at the footprints, look at everything, look at the fingerprints, look at the way the crime occurred, and then figure out who did it. So in case control study, as a detective, you are going with all your tools and you are looking backward. So backward, in case control study, you are looking backward. Please, doctors, I need you to type this. Backward. Case control study, I need you to type this. Backward, backward, backward. In case control study, you are studying backwards. You are looking at why did the case happen? What happened here? And then with your detective scan, you are checking. Okay, there was a fingerprint here. You look at the CCTV camera. These were the car wheels. The car was moving at this speed. That is exactly what you are doing. Case control study, backward. I'm looking backward. I want to see what is happening to this particular patient. I'm going backward to see what is going on with this particular patient. That is what you want to know in a case control study. Okay, so in a case control study, you are looking backward. You are looking backward. Now, let me continue to teach the class. In a case control study, you are looking backward. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's continue. So you are looking at 2 groups. You have the cases, that is those who have had the disease, and you have the controls, those who do not have the disease. Remember, case control studies, I'm looking backward. In case control studies, there are 2 groups of people. We have the cases and the controls. The cases are the people who have the disease. The controls are the people who don't have the disease. Then you ask both groups, what were you exposed to in the past? What were you exposed to in the past? Case control studies, I'm looking backward. I have 2 groups. I'm going to ask them, in the past, what were you exposed to? So there are 4 key principles which are non-negotiables of case control studies. The first one is the disease in a case control study has already happened. Number 2, you select the cases and then you select the controls. And then you look backwards. Now, this is another trick you need to know. In your board exam, what can you generate out of a case control study? It's the odds ratio. So if I were you, I'll write this in my textbook or in my notebook. Number 1, case control study. I'm a detective. So write case control study, detective. Number 2, case control study. I look backward. Number 3, case control study. The condition has already happened. Number 4, case control study. There are 2 groups of people. We have the cases, which is those who have the disease, and the control, which is those who don't have the disease. And I'm asking a very simple question. What were you exposed to? And what statistical parameter can I glean out of a case control study? It's odds ratio. Odds ratio. Odds ratio. Doctors, please, I need you to write this in your text, in your notebook. Take a screenshot, send it to me by WhatsApp on +1 306 891 5649 +1 306 891 5649. Odds ratio, case control observational study. So if you are sleeping and I ask you, hey, Dr. Bimbola, please tell me about case control study, you should be able to memorize it. Case control study, looking backward, the disease has already happened. I'm going to have two groups. I'm going to have the cases and I'm going to have the controls. The cases are the people who have the disease. The controls are the people who don't have the disease. And I'm going to ask, what happened in the past? And the statistical design or the statistical data I can generate out of a case control study is an odds ratio. Please, if you've understood this, just type understood. Because we are going to do this for all the study designs. And today, after today, no statistical study design should beat you. So if you've understood this, just type understood, understood, understood. Case control study goes with odds ratio. Case control study, two groups. There's the cases, that is those who have the disease, and the control, that is those who don't have the disease. And then in a case control study, you are a detective. I am a detective in a case control study. I'm asking those who have the disease, what happened in the past? And what can I generate from a case control study? Odds ratio. Odds ratio. Odds ratio. Odds ratio. Boom. So an example of a case control study can be this. You have 200 patients with lung cancer. These are the cases. And 200 patients without lung cancer. These are the controls. So you look back at their smoking history. And then you realize that majority of the people who have the lung cancer have smoked in the past. That is case control study. Now let's go to cohort observational study. Doctors, please, I have a question. Are you enjoying the class today? Statistical study design should not be difficult. Are you enjoying the class today? Is the class making sense? Because most of the time we sit in study groups and then, people just mention case control, cohort study, and we go like, okay, let me just memorize this thing by heart, brute memorization. Let me just memorize this by heart. But I want to understand, are you understanding the concepts today? Because if you don't understand the concepts, then why are you going to the board exam? Why are you going into the board exam? But if you understand the concepts, then you can go into the board exam and you can go with excitement. You go like, hey, bring me statistical study design questions because I'm going to rock it. Beautiful. So in a case control study, you are a detective. Now, let's go to the next one, cohort observational study. Cohort observational study. In a cohort observational study, unlike a case control study, in a cohort observational study, you are a shepherd. Please write it down in your notebook right now. In a cohort observational study, you are a shepherd. In a case control study, you are a detective. In a cohort study, you are a shepherd. You are a shepherd. You have your flock, okay? A flock of sheep, and you are just following them. And look at what the shepherd is going to do in a cohort study. He's going to do something very interesting. Imagine that you are a shepherd watching over your flock. Now you divide your flock into two groups. Number one, the sheep that eat a particular certain kind of grass. And then the sheep that is group two, sheep that do not eat that grass. Now, the sheep that eat that certain grass, they are what we call exposed, the exposed group. And those who do not eat that grass, they are the unexposed. Now look at the difference between cohort study and case control study. Then you follow them in time and watch which sheep gets sick. Okay, so that is a cohort study. You follow people forward and you count who develops a disease. So remember, Let's look at it carefully. Let's look at it carefully so that in the board exam, no one beats you. In a case control study, the disease has already occurred and you are looking backward. In a cohort study, you have the people, none of them has the disease. You divide them into two. One, you give them a particular form of grass. The other, they don't take that particular kind of grass. And then you study them into the future. So while case control study is looking in the past, cohort study is looking into the future. Hey, doctors, please, are you following me? While case control study is looking into the past, cohort study is looking into the future. Let me say it again. While case control study is a retrospective study, cohort study is a prospective study. In case control studies, the problem has already happened. In cohort study, the problem has not happened, but you divide them into two groups and you expose one group to whatever it is you are studying. And then the other group, you don't expose them to the other thing. And then you study them into the future. Then you study them into the future. Okay? That is the secret. Now, what are the 4 negotiables? 4 negotiables of cohort study. 4 negotiables of cohort study. 4 negotiables of cohort study. Groups are defined by exposure, not disease. The exposed versus the non-exposed. But in case control study, you divide them as affected versus non-affected. The sick versus not the sick. Those who have lung cancer versus those who don't have lung cancer. But in cohort study, all of them at a particular point in time, they are good. Then one group, they start smoking, 20 years. The other group, they don't smoke, 20 years. Now, after 20 years, you come and look at them and ask yourself, did we see an increased number of lung cancer in the smokers as compared to the non-smokers? So in cohort study, you follow people forward in time. And what are you measuring? In cohort study, you are measuring incidence of disease. And the statistical analysis it generates is relative risk. Relative risk. Why? You are doing relative risk. You are looking at the risk of developing the disease after the person was exposed to smoking as compared to the one who did not smoke. That is why you do the relative risk. So you see, in case control study, we are studying odds ratio. In cohort study, we are studying relative risk. Doctors, does it make sense? Does it make sense now? Is it making sense? So let me give you an example. In cohort study, you enroll 5,000 smokers, or you enroll 10,000 people. Let me say 10,000 people. 5,000, they start smoking. 5,000, they do not smoke. And then 20 years down the line, you go and assess which of these people developed lung cancer or COPD, which of these people did not develop COPD. Please, now I want you to type for me. If I want you to type for me, nailed it. If you understand the difference between cohort study and case control study. Cohort study and case control study. Somebody just brought a question. Let me take the question. Someone says, so you mean in cohort, talk about risk factor who develop disease? Okay, so let me say it again. In cohort, what you are doing is you pick 2 groups of people. At the point in time that you are starting your cohort or you are doing your cohort study, the people do not have the disease. They don't have the disease. Then you see that one group of people, maybe they are smoking. The other group of people, they are not smoking. And then you give yourself 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. And you say, I'm going to come back to these 2 groups of people and then I'm going to analyze them. And then you realize that chances are that those who smoked, they have a higher risk of developing COPD as compared to those who did not smoke. Okay, so that's why we are looking at relative risk. Relative risk. Doctors, please, if we nailed the cohort study. Just type nailed it, nailed it, nailed it. Then let's go to the next topic. Nailed it. Statistical study design should not be difficult. TikTok guys, please just let's interact in TikTok. Let's interact. Nailed it, nailed it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I don't know why I'm so excited today. Maybe because we went live on TikTok. The TikTok guys are giving me a lot of energy. Okay, good. Now let's go to descriptive study. Descriptive observational study. Descriptive observational study. In descriptive observational study, just look at yourself as I've gone to a cafe like Tim Hortons or a nice cafe, a plush cafe in your vicinity, okay? And you are sitting at the window and you are just watching people. You are not there doing anything. You are just there watching them. You are just watching them. And you are just writing down the things you see. Just the things you see. You're not doing anything fancy. You're not really doing something wild. You are sitting by a window. You are sitting by a window. You are sitting by a window. Okay? And you have your nice tea. I don't take caffeine. So you are taking your non-caffeinated tea. If you also take caffeine or coffee, you are taking your coffee. If you have your Tim Hortons, you are taking your Tim Hortons. If you drink hot chocolate, you are drinking your hot chocolate. Okay? And you are just looking through the window. And you see different kinds of people. Some people are tall. Some people are short. Some people wear a cap like Dr. Bruni. Some people wear a hoodie. Okay? Some people are also driving. Some are driving Teslas. Some are driving G-Wagons. Some are driving, all sorts of things. Mercedes-Benz. Some are driving Peugeot. Some people are wearing red coats. Some people are wearing, white coats. Some people are sneezing. Some people are sad. Some people are crying. In a descriptive study, you are not testing any theory. You are not comparing anybody. You are just describing what you see. Descriptive. I'm just describing. I'm just describing. I'm just describing. You are just describing what you see. So you are minding your business. You are sitting by a cafe. A couple is fighting. A man has crutches. Another man is using a wheelchair. Another man is running. Someone is listening to music on the phone. You are just observing. You are just describing what you see. You are not doing comparative analysis, nothing. You're just describing, oh, somebody passed by in a white car. Oh, somebody passed by in a red car. Oh, somebody is jogging with a Nike on. That's all you are doing. Descriptive study. So what are the four non-negotiables of descriptive studies? You are not testing any hypothesis. You are not comparing any groups. You are just answering the question, who, what, where, and when. Who is passing by? Oh, a man passed by. A woman passed by. Somebody is jogging. That's all you are doing. That's it. You are using existing and pre-collected data to do your thing. You're not really doing any analysis or anything. Okay? Good. So now, but when it comes to a descriptive study, I want to draw attention to something. There are 3 types of descriptive studies. 3 types. And I want you to know the differences so that in your board exam, if you see that, you are not confused about it. There are 3 types of observational studies. Number 1 is the case report. When you see a case report, it means that someone picked a patient, a single patient, a single case, a single person, and wrote, their observations about that particular person, and case reports can be published in journals. And then we have a case series. Now, this is the difference between a case report and a case series. A case report is focused on just one person. A case series is a group of similar patients who are being described. So let me say a group of patients with heart failure, a group of patients with diabetes, a group of patients with COPD, a group of patients with eczema, a group of patients with schizophrenia, right? And then we also have ecological study, which is a population level patterns described. Oh, so maybe you look at something like, oh, in Canada, in Ottawa, where I live, this is what I've observed. Maybe in Ottawa, On the eastern side of Ottawa, in this particular perimeter, there is this factory here, blah, blah, blah. This is what I've observed. So that is the ecological study. So please remember, in a descriptive study, there are 3 types of descriptive studies you need to learn. Number 1 is the case report. Number 2 is the case series. And number 3 is the ecological study. Doctors, please, I want to make sure you've picked up this point as well. So if you've picked it up, let me know. Doctor, I've picked it up. Just type, picked it up, picked it up, picked it up, picked it up. I'm not rushing through today's class at all. If we even have to spend 2 hours and understand these concepts, we are going to do it. If we have to even spend 2 hours to understand, so just type, picked it up, picked it up, picked it up, picked it up, picked it up. I think somebody has a question here. I'm going to read a question. It says, so how would statistical observational studies be framed in a question, please? Statistical observational study. I'm going to give you some questions at the end, and I'm going to quiz you on it. So don't worry about that. That's why I'm trying to lay the foundation. Lay the foundation. Then we run from there. Okay. So picked it up, 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 picked it up. Now let's go to a randomized control trial. Randomized control trial. A randomized control trial. Randomized control trial. What is a randomized control trial? Doctors, remember, I said case control study. You see yourself as a detective. You are looking backward. Cohort study, you see yourself as a shepherd. You are looking forward, right? And then we just did observational study, where you are just sitting by the cafe and you're just watching people. Now let's look at this other study design, which is the randomized control study. So randomized control study, see yourself as a referee at the beginning of a match where you have to toss a coin. So in a randomized control trial, you are basically flipping a coin. And you know that in a flipping of a coin, it can be one of 2 sides, right? So in a randomized control trial, you are literally flipping a coin. You are flipping a coin, okay? Now, what does that lead to? So imagine you have 100 patients and you flip a coin for each one of them. All those who get the head of the coin, they are going to be given drug A. All those who get the tail of the coin, they are going to be given the placebo drug. You don't go saying, I'm choosing you because you have this skin color, you have this face. No, 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 no. You just, everyone who comes, we flip a coin. If you go to the heads, you go to drug A. If you go to the tail, you go to drug B. And we believe that if we do it through on a long and a large number of individuals, by the end of the day, we would have distributed them randomly. So that is what we call randomized, right? That is the power of randomization, so that you are not biased, okay? So you then measure outcomes and compare. The researcher is here in full control of who gets what, because you put them in a random group, A and B. And then for the A people, you give them a particular drug. For the B people, you give them a placebo. And at times you just see, okay, what has been the effect of this on them? Then you measure it. So what are the 4 non-negotiables of randomized control trial? The researcher randomly assigns the participants. And there is an intervention. So in a randomized control trial, you're going to put in an intervention. For example, a medication. So maybe a new medication is being introduced. What study design do you think will help? It would be a randomized control trial, okay? It could be a procedure. It could be a behavior change. And then there's also a control group who don't get it, but they are also selected and put in group B. And the gold standard here is that you want to establish causation. You want to establish causation. You want to establish causation. That's all you want to establish, okay? Causation. Okay, now, let's move on. All confounding variables, so whether age, remember we didn't select anybody according to age, sex, diet, lifestyle. They are distributed randomly. And if it's a very large group of people, by the end of the randomized control trial, they would have been distributed equally. This means any difference in the outcome can only be due to the intervention which was put in. And the intervention can be a medication, a surgery, a procedure, something like that. Okay, good. So, for example, what's an example of a randomized control trial? For example, you have 500 hypertensive patients randomly assigned to a new drug or a placebo. And then you check their blood pressure 6 months, and then you monitor, and then you ask yourself, is there any difference in the way these people reacted to these medications? Okay? Yeah. So doctors, are we good? 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 Then let's talk about the analytical observational study. So you realize that the analytical observational study, it's not one specific study design. It's not one specific study design. Rather, it is an umbrella term. Okay? And under analytical observational study, you can have descriptive studies and analytical studies. So in descriptive studies, that's where you get a case report, where you write something on just one person. The case series, where you write something on like a particular medical condition in a group of people, okay? Or ecological study, where you study people who live in a particular area and then you write something about them. Or the analytical type, where you have the cohort study, the case control study, the cross-sectional study, okay? Now, doctors, with all this information, we are going to try our hands on some questions. We're going to try our hands on some questions. We are going to try our hands on some questions. Now, do you think you've been furnished with enough information, enough explanation to try your hands on questions? Yes or no? Just type yes. We're going to focus on, the study designs. What are they? Which study design goes with odds ratio? Which study design goes with those kinds of things? Are you good with that? Are you good? Are you good? So just type test, T-E-S-T, test. I'm ready to be tested. Test, T-E-S-T, test. Then I know that we are ready to be tested after we've laid the foundation. So what we did was that we went through the MCC's question. We reviewed the concepts that the MCC wants you to understand. And then now we are coming to take a test on the concepts we've learned. We're coming to take a test on the concepts we've learned. We come to take a test. So those on TikTok, I'll be reading the question. But if you want to see the actual question, you can go to YouTube, type MedCognito, go to live. You will see the slides there. And then you can join. Okay? Okay, so everybody is ready for the test. So let's go. Let's try our hands on the test. Everybody is ready for the test. So we're going to try our hands on the test right away. Okay. So let's go to the first question. A research team in Vancouver wants to determine whether long-term exposure to diesel exhaust causes bladder cancer. They identified 300 municipal bus drivers who have worked for more than 15 years and 300 office workers with no diesel exposure. Both groups are cancer-free at enrollment. They are followed for 10 years and bladder cancer incidence is recorded. Which of the following statistics would be most appropriate to report from this study? So you will realize that this is a two-layered question. First, you have to know the kind of study design we are doing, and then the statistical analysis you can do out of that study design, right? And I taught you this. So let's go. A, odds ratio. B, prevalence ratio. C, relative risk. D, number needed to treat. And E, attributable risk percent only. Let me read the question again. A research team in Vancouver wants to determine whether long-term exposure to diesel exhaust causes bladder cancer. They identified 300 municipal bus drivers who have worked for more than 15 years and 300 office workers with no diesel exposure. I continue. Both groups are cancer-free at enrollment. They are followed for 10 years and bladder cancer incidence is recorded. Which of the following statistics would be most appropriate to report from this study? A, odds ratio. B, prevalence ratio. C, relative risk. D, number needed to treat. And E, attributable risk percent only. What is the correct answer? So, wow, you see what the doctors are doing because they've learned so much. Look at what they are doing. Look, a lot of people are going for C, but let me show you what some guys are doing. This doctor said cohorts and relative risk. So he has even been able to identify the study design and the statistic you can draw out of it. Let me look at this other doctor who also said cohort study. Well, it's a cohort study because we are starting from people who don't have the disease, and then we are drawing the relative risk from it. So it looks like a lot of people are going for C, and the correct answer is definitely C. So those on TikTok, if you stated C, you are right. And those on Facebook and YouTube, if you also stated C, you are also right. Okay, so it's basically relative risk. This is a cohort study. We have the exposed group, which is the bus drivers, and the unexposed group, which is the office workers. Both are disease-free at baseline. So this is like the shepherd, right? The shepherd. Now you are exposing them and you are following them for 10 years. Okay, you are looking forward in time and you measure the incidence of bladder cancer. Cohort studies produce relative risk. So you see, if you don't understand the first part of the lecture, you will not understand the second, how to answer the question. Because we've learned that we derive relative risk from cohort study. Because you know the true denominator, how many people were in each group from the start. You can calculate the actual risk. I'm going to leave the explanation for why the rest of the answers are wrong, and then we go to the next question. Okay, but I think maybe let me talk about the odds ratio, because the odds ratio is very, very important. You realize that the odds ratio is the statistic for case control studies. So in cohort studies, the statistic you are trying to derive is relative risk, RR. In case control study, the statistic you're trying to derive is odds ratio. The rest you can take your time and learn it. That is, for example, number needed to treat. Why is number needed to treat important? Number needed to treat will come in randomized control trials. Why? Because we said in randomized control trials, you are trying a medication, you are trying an intervention, you are trying a procedure, right? And then you have those you tried the medication on and those who did not get the medication tried on them. So these are the things you need to pick up. Okay? You need to pick them up. And then that will be good. Prevalence ratio, you use it from cross-sectional studies. So cross-sectional, it's like the people are there, and then prevalence. What's the prevalence of this disease? Once in a while, you just take a sample, right? You do a cross-sectional study across the population, and then you just be able to pick up the prevalence ratio. So we've learned which statistical study goes with odds ratio, which is case control studies, which statistical study goes with relative risk, which is cohort study. And then we've learned that cross-sectional studies go with prevalence ratio, and we've learned that number needed to treat goes with randomized control trial. Hey, doctors, this is simple, easy peasy, easy peasy, easy peasy, easy peasy, easy peasy, right? Easy peasy. Okay, so now let's go to the next question. So as soon as you see exposed versus unexposed, and they are followed forward, plus the incidence measured, you are looking at a cohort study, and you have to think about relative risk. So as soon as in your board exam, you see exposed, unexposed, followed forward, incidence measured, relative risk. Lock it in, please. Let's lock it in. Let's make sure we've locked that in. And then we go to the next question. So the next question is this. A family physician notices that several patients who work at a local nail salon have developed occupational asthma. She suspects that chemical fumes from acrylic nail products are responsible. She suspects. To test this hypothesis formally, she recruits 150 nail salon workers and 150 office workers. She administers a detailed questionnaire asking about the respiratory symptoms and measures current lung function in all the participants on the same day. Which of the following best describes this study design? A. Descriptive observational study. B. Prospective cohort study. C. Case control observational study. D. Analytical cross-sectional study. And E. Randomized control trial. What's the correct answer? What's the correct answer? So I see now people are fighting. Some are saying A when the question is not so obvious. Some are saying B. Some are saying D. Some are saying C. What's the correct answer here? Doctors, what's the correct answer? What's the correct answer? What is the correct answer? And the correct answer is analytical cross-sectional study. That is D, analytical cross-sectional study. Why is it so? The question is specifically designed to test whether you can distinguish descriptive from analytical and whether you know what cross-sectional study means. The physician is testing a hypothesis. That is, chemical fumes cause asthma. That's what the doctor is thinking. I've seen quite a number of people who work in acrylic shops, and my hypothesis is that, okay, chemical fumes cause asthma. Chemical fumes cause asthma. Chemical fumes cause asthma. Then he says she's comparing two groups, nail workers versus office workers. Then she measures both the exposed, that is the chemical fume nail salon work, and the outcome, which is respiratory symptoms, that is the lung function, at the same time, on the same day. That simultaneous measurement is the hallmark of cross-sectional study. Right, doctors? So please, that simultaneous measurement is the hallmark of cross-sectional studies because a hypothesis is being tested in comparison with groups. So it becomes analytical. So there's a cross-sectional study that same day. You take one day, boom, you draw a line. And then we are asking you all sorts of questions and we are doing an analysis of it. That is what makes it cross-sectional and analytical. So this is an analytical cross-sectional study. And I'm going to leave the rest of the answers there. A, why is A wrong? Descriptive has no hypothesis. Remember, we said that in descriptive study, you are just sitting at a window and you are just observing people and you are just writing. This person is tall, this person is short, this person is wearing red, this person is running, this person is walking slowly, this person is the wheelchair, this person is driving a Tesla. That's what you are doing, right? But in this particular case, this doctor has a hypothesis, and hypothesis is that I think that if you work in an acrylic shop, you develop workplace-related asthma. And then he's now researching it on that same day. What's a prospective cohort study? A prospective cohort study would have taken two groups of people. They don't have the asthma, and it will follow them. So that one, we know that B is wrong. This one, the doctor is taking the information there and then he's doing an analysis. Okay? Case control study, he would have picked those who have the asthma versus those who don't have asthma. Right? And he would have asked, what were you exposed to? But this time, he didn't do that. What he did was that he picked those who work in a nail salon and he picked people who are office workers. And then he's doing an analysis on a particular day. And then randomized control trial, remember that randomized control trial is like flipping a coin, right? So he would have done that selection first. But in this particular case, he has already grouped them as office workers versus nail acrylic workers. And he's trying to test a hypothesis. Doctors, please, does that make sense? 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 Beautiful. Okay. So let's go to the next question. So the exam strategy you have to learn is this. Once a hypothesis is formed and groups are compared, you are dealing with an analytical cross-sectional study. Boom. You are dealing with an analytical cross-sectional study. Boom, 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 you are done. Okay? Now let's go to the next question. Researchers studying the relation between red meat consumption and colorectal cancer select 400 participants or patients recently diagnosed with colorectal cancer and 400 age-matched and sex-matched patients who had a colonoscopy with no findings. Please look at it very well. All 800 participants are asked to recall their dietary habits over the previous 20 years. The study finds that colorectal cancer patients were significantly more likely to have reported high red meat consumption. Which of the following represents the most significant methodological limitation of this study? So, first, the answers are A, loss to follow up, B, ecological fallacy, C, lack of randomization, D, recall bias, and E, Hawthorne effect. Loss to follow up, ecological fallacy, lack of randomization, recall bias, or Hawthorne effect. What's the correct answer? First, let's analyze this. What kind of study is this? What kind of study is this? What kind of study are we dealing with? What kind of study are we dealing with? Doctors, type the answer for me. What kind of study are we dealing with? Before we even answer whether it is A, B, C, D, or E, what kind of study are we dealing with? Who can help me? What kind of study are we dealing with? Beautiful. This is a case control study. This is a case control study. Remember, in case control study, you are a detective and you are looking backwards. 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 Case control study. That's the correct thing. Now, in case control study, so you are asking them, how often were you eating red meat in the last 20 years? And then you have people who have colorectal cancer and those who don't have colorectal cancer. What do you think can affect it? What the person has to recall. How was my wife preparing the food? Which restaurant were we eating? What were we buying? You know, that is it. That is it. So it becomes a recall bias problem. That is it. It's a recall bias. It's a recall bias. Doctors, statistical study designs is not difficult. It's not difficult. MedCognito makes things simple. Statistical study designs, not difficult. You must be able to ace it in your board exam. So this is a case control study, okay? Colorectal cancer versus controls, those who did not have colorectal cancer. And you're asking them about their past. Their past. The most significant and classic limitation of case control study is recall bias. So you have to understand the statistic you can generate from a case control study is the odds ratio. The statistic or the limitation of a case control is recall bias. So patients who have been diagnosed with colorectal cancer are psychologically motivated to search for explanations. They are far more likely to overreport red meat consumption. I must have eaten badly and that's why I got cancer, right? Compared to healthy controls who have no such motivation. So this systemic difference is in recall between cases and controls is what we call recall bias. Simple, okay? Recall bias, recall bias, recall bias, recall bias, recall bias. All right. So in a case control, if they are asking about past behavior or exposure, remember that the person may forget, what kind of food did I eat? What kind of meat did my wife give me? What kind of protein was in my food? That is why the person has gotten that particular medical condition. Okay? So recall bias is the problem. Doctors, how has it been so far? How has today been so far? Statistical study design. You thought you were coming in for a boring class, right? No. Nothing is boring here. There's no boring day in MedCognito. Okay? So I'm very happy. We are now going to go into riddles. We're going to now go into riddles. So you thought you were coming into a boring class, but look here. No. We're not going to do that to you. Okay. So we're now going to go into riddles. I'm going to give you riddles as well, so that you'll be able to tell me what the correct answer is. Okay. But doctors, please remember, MedCognito has a lot of goodies for you. We do have a lot of goodies for you. We have a 6-month plan for you for your board exam. Okay, all you need to do is to just reach out, Dr. Bonnie. I want to enroll now. All the critical MCQ1 topics, objective by objective, system by system. We've broken everything down for you. You have the total models. If we should quantify that, that is almost $5,000, right? We've done all that work for you. You get more than 3,000 high-yield exam triggers, questions that you need to review for your board exam. It's also in your study portal. We also conduct what we call med drills, where we quiz you, we quiz your mind. We start from cardiology, we get into gynecology, we get into respirology, we get into all that for you. If we should quantify that alone is a course on its own. That alone is more than $2,500, doctors. Okay? You also have a question bank, which currently has more than 3,000 questions in there. So while you are studying, you are trying your hands on it. So today, when we are done, go to Public Health and Population Medicine. Go to the question bank and try your hands on the Public Health and Population Medicine questions. Okay? Try your hands on them. Okay? Try your hands on them. Oh, my. Sorry. Okay? Try your hands on them. Try your hands on the question bank. Do the question bank. Do the questions in there. That will help you. All right? And then you also have mock exams as well. Now, we also conduct live classes. So tonight, you have a class on nephrology and urology. So it's going to be a 3-hour class. That's why I usually conduct these classes early, so you can get some rest and then join the 3-hour class. And that 3-hour class, even though it is live, we also record it as well, so you can go back and watch the replay. So you can always have it with you. You can watch the replay on your phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, anywhere. So far as you have internet, you can watch it, right? Good. And then we conduct live classes, and within a 6-month period, you would have reviewed the entire content with us 2 times. Because when preparation meets expectations, that is when you are going to ace your board exam. So we've made sure that you go through the whole program twice, so you are well grounded for the exam. And of course, that's my phone number. People call and they go like, is this Dr. Bonnie? I go like, yes, this is Dr. Bonnie himself, right? Is this Dr. Bonnie? Yes, this is me. I'm the one who responds to my own phone calls, right? So if you want to reach out, even right now after the class, just call me after the class, not now. I'm in class right now. +1 306 891 5649. +1 306 891 5649. Our administrators are also there to help. Dr. Julia is also there to help. The teachers are also in the group. So if you have a question, the teachers will also help to answer your question. That's the kind of support we provide for you, doctors. So even on days we are not conducting class, hey, if you have a question, you just bring it up. We are there to support you. Okay? And then in the last 2 weeks, we've introduced what we call the Med Buddy. So the Med Buddy is in your portal as well. So for example, today, we've learned statistical study designs. So all I did was I put in what is a cohort, like I put in cohort study, and then the Med Buddy will generate 10 things to quiz you on that particular question, right? 10 things to quiz you. So if you want to learn about case control study, all you need to do is just type it in Med Buddy in your portal, and it is going to generate 10 things. So for this, for example, today it asks, what's a cohort study and how does it differ from a case control study? And look at the answer I was trying to get my mind around. A cohort study follows exposed and unexposed groups forward in time to measure disease incidence. Case control starts with disease outcome and looks backward to exposure. Cohort directly measures risk. Case control measures odds. That's why the statistics you can generate from case control is odds ratio, and cohort studies you can generate relative risk, right? Doctors, this is so you have all this in your portal for you, and you can go back and forth all the time on your phone, on your iPad, on your laptop. You can even be, play it as a podcast when you are home, when you are driving, when you are washing, whatever it is you are doing, when you are eating, anything. Doctors, if we should put all these and make them individual products, that's more than 32,000 Canadian dollars. But we've slashed everything to just 2,200 Canadian dollars, 2,199 Canadian dollars. Sorry, that's a one-time payment. And if you want to pay it over 2 months, it's just $1,150 times 2. If you want to pay it over 3 months, it's only $799 times 3, and you still get 6 months access. And if you want to pay it month by month by month, that's also fine. You can just do $420 every month for 6 months. Okay? So doctors, you have all these options there for you. Reach out, +1 306 891 5649 +1 306 891 5649. Dr. Boni, I want to enroll right away because the way you guys break down the concepts, awesome. Okay, let's do it. And then we also have, like, if you can't afford it, that is fine. There is a government agency, we call them Windmill, which, because it's a government agency, can give you a very, very good rate in terms of a loan. It is not like what the banks give or anything. Very, very, very low rate. And all they need is proof of registration and all those things. They'll give you the money. You can use it to register. Then you're good to go. Okay? So doctors, let's take advantage of it. So riddle. Let's start the riddles. The first riddle is this. What am I? I am a detective. By the time I arrive, the crime has already happened. I find people who have the disease. I call them my cases. Then I find people who don't have the disease. I call them my controls. I ask both groups, what were you exposed to in the past? I travel backward in time through old records and memories. I'm giving you the riddle. My favorite number is called an odds ratio. I am the best study when the disease is rare. What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? I like this. We need to find a way to make learning fun. We need to find a way to make learning fun. And now people are telling me, Dr. Boni, I think I know it is a case control observational study, case control study, case control. So if you type in case control, you are correct. If you type in case control, you are correct. Detective, case control. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Next question. Riddle. I am a shepherd with 2 flocks. One flock eats the special grass, which is the exposed. The other flock eats normal grass. They are not exposed. Both flocks are perfectly healthy when I start watching them. I follow them forward through time for years and years. At the end, I count who got sick in each flock. My favorite number is called relative risk. My biggest enemy is when sheep run away and I lose track of them. What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? I am a shepherd. What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? I am a shepherd. What kind of study am I? And the correct answer is cohort observational study or cohort study. Some people say cohort study. Doctors, you see now the way everything makes sense. These concepts cannot beat you in the board exam. Let's go to the next riddle. Riddle. I am sitting at a cafe window with a notebook. I watch people walk by outside. I write down tall people, short people, people sneezing, people coughing. I am not testing any theory. I am not comparing two groups against each other. I just describe what I see, who I see, what I see, where I see, when I see. I collect data that already exists from registries, databases, insurance boards. I have no key statistic. I just count and describe. I am the correct answer in the original exam question. What kind of study am I? 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 Beautiful. Descriptive study. Doctors, you see, statistical study is not difficult. Again, statistical study is not difficult. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. I am the fairest study in the land. What am I? I'm the fairest study in the land. I flip a coin for every single patient. Heads up, heads, you get a new drug. Tails, you get the sugar pill, which is the placebo. Nobody chooses their group. It is the coin which decides the group you go into. This means nobody can cheat. Nobody can be biased. I follow everyone forward and compare what happens. I am the gold standard for proving that something truly causes something else. My favorite numbers are absolute risk reduction, that is ARR, and number needed to treat. What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? Doctors, what kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? Randomized control trial. Doctors, I have a question. If after this class, somebody asks you, how did the class go? We are not done with the riddles. There are more riddles to come. But if after this class, somebody asks you, how did the class go? What will you tell them? How did Dr. Boni's class go today on March 8th, 2026? What will you tell them? How did the class go? What will you tell that person? That person who missed the class, what will you tell them? Excelente, excelente, excelente. Public health and preventive medicine should not be difficult. That's what I'm trying to say. It's very simple. Let's move on. So, what kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? And the correct answer is randomized control trial, RCT, randomized controlled trial, randomized control trial. Next riddle. What am I? I am not one study. I'm a whole family of studies. My family members are cohort, case control, cross-sectional. What we all share is this. We observe people. We never interfere. But unlike our quiet cousin descriptive, we do test hypotheses. We do compare groups. We do look for associations between exposures and diseases. My statistic depends on which family member is doing the work. I am the umbrella that covers all observational studies that test the hypothesis. What kind of study am I? 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 So someone says I'm an analytical study. I am an analytical study. Someone saying I am an analytical study. So I am an analytical observational study. Analytical observational study. Okay, next riddle. Riddle. I am studying a very rare disease. What am I? Only 3 people in a million get the disease. If I wait around and watch healthy people to see who gets sick, I would need to follow 1 million people for decades. That would cost a fortune and take forever. So instead, I find 50 people who already have the rare disease. Then I find 50 healthy people who look just like them. I look back and ask, what were they all exposed to? I'm the smartest choice when the disease is rare. What kind of study am I? Don't rush into this particular question. Don't rush into this particular question. What kind of study am I? Those on TikTok, if you want to reach me, You know my phone number, +1 306 891 5649. +1 306 891 5649. Okay. I usually prefer WhatsApp. So if you're calling outside the country, I can still help you. What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? What kind of study am I? I'm a case control observational study. Okay? Case control observational study. Case control observational study. Case control. Okay. Another riddle. Riddle. What am I? What am I? Riddle. A doctor notices something strange. 5 of her patients this month all have the same unusual rash. They all work at the same factory. She writes up a detailed report about all 5 patients. She describes their age, their symptoms, their job, their exposure. She does not pick a control group. She does not test whether the factory caused the rash. She simply says, here's what I found, and here's what I observed. Her report will help future researchers design better studies. What kind of study is this doctor writing? 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 So I see somebody saying case series. Someone also says case report. Sorry, someone says case series. Someone says case report. So what's the correct answer? Oh, what's the correct answer? What's the correct answer here? The correct answer is a descriptive observational study, which is a case series. A case series. Remember, a case report is just about one person, but a case series is about a particular condition occurring in many or different people, and you write a report about it. But case series is just one person. Okay. Next riddle. Doctors, have a question. Do you like these riddles? Do you like the riddles? I have a question. Do you like the riddles? Those on TikTok, do you like the riddles? Those on Facebook, YouTube, do you like the riddles? Riddle. We are just using it to refresh our minds. So today, you can't, statistical studies cannot beat anybody. Riddle. Do you like them? Yes, no, I don't like them, Dr. Boni. It's boring. I hate riddles. I like them. Riddle. Let's go. Riddle. Okay, let's go. Riddle. Let's go. Riddle. Let's go. Let's go for this particular riddle. Riddle. I am the only study where the researcher is the boss. In every other study, researchers just sit and watch what happens naturally, but not me. I make things happen. I decide who gets the treatment and who gets the sugar pill. And I do it randomly. So nobody can argue the groups were different to begin with. Because of this, any differences I find at the end can only be because of the treatment I gave. Not because of age, not because of diet, not because of anything else. I am the only study that can truly say this caused that. What kind of study am I? 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 And the correct answer is a randomized control trial, RCT. So doctors, we've come to the end of an important, awesome, beautiful, wonderful class. Statistical study designs. Now, when you're sleeping and somebody wakes you up, you must be able to tell, Cohort study, randomized control trial, descriptive study, all these things. Thank you very much for your attention. And tonight, as I said, there's a class. If you want to join the class, you know how to join the class. I will share the link to the class right now. Okay, let me share the link to the class right now. If you want to join the class, I'm sharing the link to the class right now. Just click on it, get registered, let's get going. You can decide to use the payment plan. You can decide to do a one-time payment. Whichever one you prefer, doctors use it. And if you want to reach out to me right away, just call me on +1 306 891 5649. +1 306 891 5649. You call, I can't pick, probably because I'm busy. But anyone who texts, anyone who calls, know for a fact that I'll call back. +1 306 891 5649. And I've put the link in the comment section right now. You can use that to get registered, and then we are good to go. Doctors, thank you for spending your precious time with me. I'm very grateful that we can all meet together and share knowledge. All the best. All the best in your preparation, and see you on the other side of success. +1 306 891 5649. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful Sunday. Let's keep together and let's get the best out of our preparation. Thank you for making the class lively today. Bye-bye.